celebrating across difference. That's what this film is all about, where we profile people, I was going to say women, not just women, but people of color, primarily black minority ethnic of African or African Caribbean origin, so that you are aware what success looks like and that journey and the hurdles that they've had to overcome to be who they are today. And I have with me, I have the pleasure of sitting with Dr. Angela Herbert, MBE, but have a look at her medal. That's what the MBE looks like. Angela, tell me about the medal first of all. You were given an MBE for what?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be interviewed. And I can say this is the first time I've taken it out of the box since I was awarded in 2008. And the award was for services to the prison service and preventing crime in London.
Fantastic. Tell me about your journey and some of your achievements, because I know there's a lot. Please don't be shy.
Okay, well, it goes back quite a way. Of course, let's start from age 24. I became a born-again Christian, and I wanted to do something like Jesus would, and so I started volunteering in prison. So I visited Feltham Young Offenders once a month for 12 years, and I became redundant in my day job and applied to do my teacher training, but I wanted to teach in the prison. I approached Wormwood Scrubs Prison, and that's where I did my year of practice teaching. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, not least because I was able to practice something that I clearly was gifted at, but the prisons were full of people that looked like me, and that was my motivation really to stay within the service. So I volunteered at Scrubs for a year, and I developed a program called Personal Development, Self-Esteem, and internal and external issues that affect our personal development. And that course was accredited, and so I was delivering that. But then for my own self-esteem, as a volunteer teacher, I decided it was time to be paid. So I was going to resign, and I let the students know. I have to say, my first official class, I had 12 students, and my hours session, in fact it was a 2-hour session, was so rubbish that I thought that no one would come back to this to the next lesson, and I ended up having 60 students in my class.
My goodness.
And I wanted to give them something back, so I invited Trevor Phillips to come and award the certificates. I gave each one a certificate, I wrapped them and put a red ribbon around, so all of the prisoners who may never have received anything before received that from me. So for me it was about giving hope and giving aspiration, and letting people know that if you have life, then there are opportunities for you. And so that's kind of where the journey started. At Scrubs, I then became a curriculum coordinator because I was going to resign, and there was a petition by all of the prisoners, about 1,000 people that I didn't even know signed this petition.
Such was your impact.
Yeah, for me to stay. And so I did stay. I was paid then. And then I became a curriculum coordinator, deputy education manager. And then I left Scrubs as a senior manager, so a governor grade. Then I was moved to headquarters, where I looked at education and training for across 131 prisons. And so I kind of standardised the qualifications, worked with sector skills councils and a range of people. I'd say that I kind of used my influence to try and make change.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good Lord. And that's just the start. Now, where did you go from there?
I worked with young people in a youth group that I set up called J247. And it wasn't Jesus 24/7, it was Jeremiah 24/7, which says, "I will give you a heart to know me, you'll be my people and I'll be your God." And so it was, and so these young people, I told them they could be anything that they wanted to be. So as an, you know, I had an MBE, but they could be anything that they wanted to be. So I set the you know, the levels for them, if you like.
Wow.
And I put them through teacher training. I put all those young people through teacher training, you know, like stage 1, and then
Yes.
got them to teach younger people.
Yes,
So
as
it was about
mentors.
really giving them, you know, what I knew, and it wasn't age specific. You can do anything you want to do. So and 100% of those young people have gone on to do amazing things. I'm so proud of them, including medical doctor, teachers, head of year at age 27. You know, so they've all done amazingly well. And so I believe that if we've trodden that path, then we can open the way for others to do that easily. And so that's kind of what I do. Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing, fascinating. So barriers. Tell me about them.
Loads
Because I
of
know you must
barriers.
have had them.
A load of barriers. And one of those, which is supposed to be a barrier, is my skin colour. So as a woman of African heritage, I don't say black anymore because black isn't a place.
Yes.
Asia is somewhere and black is nowhere. And so I call myself a woman of African heritage. And one of the things that are supposed to be a barrier for me became the thing that gave me, I use it as an opportunity. So I couldn't hide behind my colleagues because I was the only black one.
Right.
Yeah, and so they'd point me out. So as a woman of African heritage, I used that as my strength. So I was different. So I used my difference to do things differently. And I use that now as the chair of the Violent Crime Prevention Board and also chair of Brent Police Independent Advisory Group. So I don't do things the same. What I try to do is look at strengths that people have and utilize those to open doors and opportunities for others. I feel that my success is everyone else's success.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Absolutely amazing. So tell me a little bit more about your work today.
So as well as the voluntary stuff, so I've been talking to you about the voluntary work that I've done. I also work for Her Majesty's Prison Probation Services, and that's been quite an experience. Like in any institution, you know, they talk about institutionalized racism, and that exists. But I believe that it's because people that are not of African heritage or colour maybe feel threatened by people that are. And even with a doctorate, so I did my professional doctorate as to dedicate to my father. So he passed away in 2009, a year after I got the award, the MBE. And so he was able to see the video and everything. He passed away the year after, but I told him I was going to do my doctorate and dedicate it to him. And so I did. So even when I didn't feel I wanted to go on anymore, I had to do it because I couldn't negotiate with him.
Of course.
And so, you know, I did my doctorate. And despite the fact that I have my teaching qualification, bachelor's, master's, doctorate,
Yes.
and a range of other awards, including coaching, mentoring, and so on.
Yeah.
The way that my Caucasian counterparts engaged with me was nothing more than disgusting.
Wow.
And the notion of unconscious is not anything that I subscribe to at all, because in the 70s it was race, and there was the Race Relations Act because there was something called race. And then we went into diversity and inclusion, so we're all happy and we're hugging each other because we're in love now. We're no longer racist. And then we became unconscious. And the fact that people believe that, and there is some kind of neurological reason for that, well, if you discriminate against me or anyone else, okay, that is incorrect under the Equalities Act 2010.
2010,
When you apply for a job, you say that you've got a friend who is black with one leg, who can't see, and all of the protected characteristics, but then you get into a job and then you forget, you become unconscious. I don't subscribe to that at all. I think that people ought to have respect for each other.
Indeed.
And people ought to give equal access to opportunities. And so I've gone through, in my workplace, I've gone through terrible discrimination, but I kind of rise above it. because I know who I am. And so I believe that your identity is key. And once you know yourself, that gives you a sense of esteem. And then once you have those, you know that you can do anything. So that's competence and resilience. And this is a model that I developed as part of my doctorate.
That was said with passion and so insightful. You are a mover and shaker. Dr. Angela Herbert, MBE, thank you.
Thank you.
Sonia Brown, MBE, CEO and founder of the National Black Women's Network. My goodness, that speaks volumes. National Black Women's Network. What made you decide to set that up?
Well, thank you for having me here first and foremost.
You're more than welcome.
Especially in these times. And it's interesting because I founded it in 1999. It was meant to be a hobby. And what happened, I was working for an, acrimonious manager who was not going to let me have any training or anything. So I realised...
I had one of them
too. I realised he defined my lifestyle. So if I was not able to get promoted, I would not get a pay rise. That impacts where I live, where I go on holiday, etc. So I said, no, I'm not having none of this. So I thought, why is it that the one group of people in our department are living heaven? And so they used to go sailing, and they'd go running, and they'd meet up and go to their wine tasting. Black people, we're shopping down at Tesco and Sainsbury on a Saturday and cleaning the house at the weekend. We don't know about hobbies. So I was like, this is a really strange environment. So in the end, I said, because I worked with the VPs, I said to them, what would make these men be captains or titans of this company? What was it in their lives that made them that we don't get it? What did we miss out that they had? So I used to say to them, what books did you read? And why did you choose your wife? How do you run your departments? And used to get some really information. How do you set your objectives? How do you set your goals? And every business is a silo to help the company make money, and it's all about the bottom line. So I just thought, well, I would never have got that advice before. And then I just thought, you know what? Just do 4 things. 1, do something around business. Do something about leadership. I think the other one was social, and I can't even remember the other one. And everyone was absolutely, you know me, I'm phoning everybody. I'm like, please come, beg still. And one of the things, I don't know if you're familiar with Dulwich College.
Yes, I've heard of Dulwich College.
Yes, so Dulwich is a bit like Harrow.
Right.
So I used to say, in South London, we drive past that Dulwich College, but never go in. So there's all these things, we live in these areas, but we're not part of the area.
Yes.
And so I said, I'm launching there. By hook or by crook, I'm launching there. And we went in there, and we were favoured because the conference manager, he was like, yep, and I'll do it at a really good price for you. And he just loved what we were doing, and we had, doing the catering, and we just wanted everyone to feel really great, because in the workplace, you talk about diversity failing now. Can you imagine back then?
Oh my goodness.
Diversity,
non-existent.
Not exactly. It was just something for them to add on to their CSR. So that pushed me, and the more I kept opening doors, the more I could see the injustice, and the more I kept saying, why is it, and I always said this, why is it that they've got these networks, but we're never privy or able to be part of those networks? So create your own. And all the resources were there in the company. So a lot of the times when people complain about being in an organisation, they don't realise the information is in there.
Yeah.
It's staring you in the face, but you're not reading, you're not being strategic, you're not getting a mentor. It's not like you've got the web. We didn't have the web when we first started. So
very true.
Every little thing pushed me further and further and further, and people were good to me. They opened doors for me to make sure, let's help these black women. Let's help black women. And then it just progressed.
Yep. Excellent. Absolutely wonderful. Now tell me about your MBE. Was that the reason why you got your MBE, or was it for other reasons?
Well, then basically what I realised that the black community are outside of policy decisions. So then it was my mentor at the time, Sir Nicholas Montague, And Baroness Howes decided that it was time to get involved in politics and start getting, especially in the groups, the committees, etc. And it just started. So Sir Nicholas really was the main pusher, because I noticed certain people, when you turned up, didn't want you there.
Yes.
And you go, oh, okay, it's like that. And then Sir Nicholas sort of went, well, go to this is the other people. If they don't want to help you, these are the other people who will. And they were really, I can't complain. I've got a story for every one of them, because, you know, it's 20 odd years that we've been sitting on committees, fighting for diversity, and now that we're fighting for inclusion, and it still hasn't changed.
Yes.
You know, so again, and I think it's something about us as a people. We got too comfortable. So we turned up at the party and enjoyed the vol au vents and Chardonnay, when we should have been trying to be strategic and getting what we need and finding the right people to help us navigate our journey.
Sonia, tell me about your background. Where are you from originally?
Okay, originally South London.
South London,
But
yes.
no, my parents are Jamaican, and we grew up in South London. And one of the things I loved about being in South London, I think we were all hurry-come-up children. So we all wanted to be adults.
I know the phrase.
Yeah, and we were just very entrepreneurial, and we probably didn't even know we were entrepreneurial. So everybody was doing something. And, you know, I always say to people, the happiest day was when the national insurance card came, so I could work legitimately, because we always worked hard. My parents were absolute hard-working people. So my mum ended up being, you know, having come to England, studied, got her master's, ended up being a probation officer. My dad was a tailor, so he had a couple of shops. And then that's it. You've just got that work ethic. And me and my brother laugh when we say my dad and mum used to be in the shop in the winter, and we'd be on the stall, and they'd be around the Calagas, and we'd be in our little sheepskins, and we'd go, you better make sure you sell them jackets, right? So, and you know, you had to. But then you go into a wider world, and what you have to understand is some people never come out of that world. And they don't experience what you get to experience, but it's like the crabs in the bucket. So once you get out of the bucket, I keep saying to people, just keep running, you know, don't look back, because you've got to come out of your environment, you've got to expand your knowledge, you've got to expand your experiences, or you will never move on. And at the moment, as I keep saying to people, yes, we've got Black Lives Matters, yes, we've had this Floyd murder, but it's a catalyst. But what are we going to do next? And that's the key thing. So we need, what are the millennials and Generation Z going to do?
Very good question. If you were to give them advice to keep them motivated, to keep them going, keep running, as you say, use that metaphor, what advice would you give?
I'd say to them now that it's time to mobilise and come up with a strategy. I think one of the things I love, the fact they've got together and they've been consistent, and the meetings have been peaceful, the protests have been peaceful. They do need to be careful it's not infiltrated and other forces get involved with it and then destroy that peaceful element about it. But now they've got to be strategic. What are they going to do for their community? What are they going to do about business? What are they going to do about crime? So you've got to have a strategy. And who's your leader?
Yeah.
And that's the key, because we don't know who to talk to. And if you don't know who your leader is, you're just going to be like a leaf in the wind blowing away.
And should that leader be a role model?
Not necessarily, because some of the most geekiest people are the most brilliant. I mean, I always say, look at Bill Gates, the girl who turned him down at the prom night. She's probably kicking herself now.
Very true.
So, you know, and Elon Musk is hardly John Travolta back in the day. So the reality is, we must stop looking at the superficial, and we must look at the depth, and we must look at where we need to be. Because once we come out of lockdown, the world is going to be different. There'll be the new normal. Well, what is that new normal going to look like for us? And furthermore, how are we going to be part of, you know, the new waves of industry? So how are we going to be involved in AI? How are we going to be involved with the drones, with driverless cars? There'll be a generation of children who never have to do a driving test, right? Because and remember, they're so used to swipe left, swipe right. Yeah. They just buy into it straight away. So it's cashless society. You can see that coming now in terms of COVID, where they're now saying to the shopkeepers, we don't want them to use cash. But so you can see these things creeping in, but we're at the peripherals, and you keep saying, well, where are we in that conversation?
Very
You
good
know,
point.
cashless society. What about Bitcoin? We know a lot's going on in Africa, but we're not being part of that narrative here.
That's fantastic.
So, you know, for me, it's about looking at these sort of things, about 3D printing, you know, so that's going to wipe out a number of builders, etc., because they
Absolutely.
could, you know, so for me, it's about how are we going to be part of that new generation?
Absolutely.
Because I keep saying this is like COVID is like a war without a bullet being shot.
Thank you so much. That's
my
such
pleasure.
sound advice.
Thank you.
Sonia Brown, MBE, another powerful woman. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
And thank you, as they say.
Lieutenant Patrick Pasley, LVO. Again, a Queen's Award. Tell me what you received that award for.
Oh, I was very lucky in that I worked for the Prince's Trust, and for many years, nearly 15 years as a trustee, and also working as a special advisor in order to, you know, make the trust the wonderful organisation it is. And I was lucky enough to be asked to be a trustee, and as I worked with the trust, we did wonderful things. Jay-Z, Will Smith, all a reflection of British modern pop culture. You know, so we brought a fresh, you know, life to the activities of the British, as well as helping many young people into employment and making sure that they stayed away from crime and made the most of their opportunities and their skills that they have.
So tell me in brief about your boxing career.
Oh, I used to be a boxer. I don't know, you know, you can't tell from all the beauty, but yes, I used to be a boxer. I got my nose smacked a few times. I boxed as an amateur boxer for nationally and internationally. Won the Canada Cup gold medal in 1989, and I was the national super heavyweight champion over here. And I went to school with Frank Bruno.
Right,
Yes. I went for school with him, Frank Bruno. He beat me up. And he was a nice guy, but he beat me up. And you know, he's a little bit older than me. Otherwise, I would have got him. And my brother and my sister, they jumped him.
Oh,
they were from Jamaica, and they jumped him, and they got revenge. But we remained very close friends all the years. Every time we meet, we tease each other about that. And you know, he used to go to, as I said, the same primary school, same boxing club down in the Earlsfield when we started together. He was always to say, "I'm going to be world champion. I'm going to be world champion." People would say, "Yeah, Frank," and he done it. Yeah, he done it.
There you go.
And I'm so proud that we, you know, met him, knew him, trained with him. One more time I saw him on Wands of Common running. I was saying, "Frank, sorry, I can't stop." He was running backwards. He ran backwards.
Wow.
But just to talk to me, and that was a privilege. But you know, he couldn't stop. He had to keep on going, and he was very successful. And I said, look, I was lucky enough to have some success as an amateur boxer, and you know, represent my country, go to the Commonwealth Games, and you know, I was, you know, very proud to work with other people like Lloyd Hunnigan, when he you know, did his ragamuffin stunt and shook up the world. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I know you became a commissioner of the CRE.
Yes.
And even became an advisor to Jack Straw.
Yeah.
Would you like to give me a little insight?
I worked as a CRE commissioner, you know, for racial equality, and we did investigations into the prison system, formal investigations, where we were led by one of our fellow commissioners who was a judge, Judge Singh, Racing, and you know, we looked into the prison system after there was a murder by of a poor Asian chap called Zahid Mubarak, and he was put in a cell with a Caucasian young man who was a bit disturbed and had a swastika on his forehead, and yet he was still put in the same cell. And you know, he planned to kill him. Wrote a letter saying to one of his other former colleagues in a prison somewhere else, saying that he's going to kill his, you know, PAKI cellmate, and the letter was stopped and they were seen and they said, no, you can't send these, or whatever, but they didn't move him. And as a result, he was murdered on one of his last nights before he was about to leave. He took a piece of wood from under the bed and battered him to death. And wrote his blood all over the walls, with racist signature. So it was, it was quite traumatic. But we did a proper investigation of the whole prison system, and not just the Young Offenders Institution. And I'm glad to say that as a result of the work that we did, and I was lucky to be part of it, that we made positive changes. And we also did looked at with the Crown prosecutions, and we were about to do a formal investigation into them, but we managed to work with them. David Calvert-Smith, who was the DPP at the time, we were lucky to work with them, and we managed to sort some things out, and it worked out quite nicely.
And you're now a director of the Haringey Law Society.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I work with the Haringey Law Centre, and we, help people in Haringey with people who haven't got much money. Then we're there for them to fight housing issues, employability issues. We're there to help them, and I feel very proud. But also I sit on the national body, the Law Centre Network, where we have meetings and strategies to how we can better help people get their civil rights and liberties. And also on top of that, I do work as a criminal justice activist.
Which is what I was going to ask next.
Yes. So whereby we've been working with a former student whose stepson, allegedly stabbed 5 people randomly in the back in North London, but obviously, people need to be protected. But there was a whistleblower in that case from the Mental Health Trust who said that he hadn't got his injections, and yet they still went on with the criminal trial, even though obviously some sort of negligence seems to have taken place. And so the system still needs adjusting, I would say. Yeah.
Now, I must commend you for all the things that you've been able to do and achieve. And I hope you don't mind me mentioning this.
Yeah.
Despite your disabilities, would you like to sort of...
Yes, as I said, as being a boxer, yes, I've taken my fair share of blows, and as I said, I've got a condition called myasthenia gravis.
Would you like to explain what that is?
And what happens is that sometimes, if I wake up in the morning, sometimes, when I'm lying down asleep, sometimes I'm awake and I can't move. Yes, which can be a little bit, frightening, because it's a bit like sleep apnea, that type of thing. But then also when I wake up in the morning, sometimes my muscles won't move. So I'm taking some medication and stuff like that. So I'm hoping it gets better. But I have that, and then also because I've worn my bones down running and as a boxer and stuff, like training for many years, and then helping other people with football teams and stuff like that. I had my hip replaced, and then my knee. Now it looks like it's going the same way, but as I said, I've really made the most of my body during my life, and so I'm confident that I'll be able to get another replacement soon, and I'll be back there fighting for everybody else.
I understand that you write poetry.
I've just started writing poetry. I've been inspired by a few people I've heard, and by the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm part of it, and I put a poem in for Black Lives Matter.
Fabulous. Have you got one you can read?
Yeah, it's called I Am an African. Yes?
So if you could read that to camera,
yes,
that'd be great.
I Am an African, a poem by Lieutenant Patrick Passley, LVO, that's me. I am an African, stolen from Africa, long, long ago, brought cruelly to a foreign land by back then my white foe. Stripped of my identity, who am I now? Named after a white man from head to toe. I am an African. Yes, I was the first man. I gave birth to all nations. All of you are my clan. Stripped of my culture and identity, but not my African soul. Getting the whole world to accept that Black Lives Matter is my ultimate goal.
Oh, amazing. Short, sweet, and to the point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.